So then, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَالَّذِي نَزَّلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً بِقَدْرٍ فَأَنشَرْنَا بِهِ بَلْدَةً مَيْتًا كَذَلِكَ تُخْرَجُونَ. And again, we sent down from the heaven water biqadar. In other words, even the water yesterday, they measure it. It's approximation, but they can measure water. But Allah knows the exact amount that is coming down to us. If it's too much, it won't produce. If it's too little, it won't produce. So when you look, Allah's giving us the qadar, the portion that we need in order for the earth to bring forth its fruits and gifts. An amazing aspect of life on earth. They said, وَقَالُوا, that إِنْ هِيَ إِلَّا حَيَاتُنَا الدُّنْيَا. This is just the life of the world. وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمَبْعُوثِينَ. And we're not going to be resurrected. So this was the belief of the Arabs, that they wouldn't be resurrected. So this chapter is almost entirely about the resurrection. Qaf. And the Prophet used it constantly as a reminder, as a wa'al. Hisham bint al-Haritha said that she memorized it from hearing it so often on the tongue of the Prophet ﷺ. They shared an oven, and when they used to come to bake, they shared an oven. But she heard him many times, and she said she memorized it just from hearing it constantly. So then they say, عَجِبُوا أَنْ جَاءَهُمْ مُنذِرٌ مِّنْهُمْ. They're ajibu, the Arabs, if they say ajab, if they say a'jabani, it's positive, istihsanan, they like it. إِذَا عَجِبْتُ, it's just strange, they wonder about it. Ajibtu, it's a strange thing. They don't know the cause of it. They consider it like what we would say in our culture, weird. It's just strange. But it can also mean wondrous. بل عجبوا أن جاءهم منذر منهم فقال الكافرون هذا شيء عجيب. So here Allah uses kafirun instead of mushrikun, even though they were mushrikun. And there are different types of kufr. Shirk is one type of kufr. There's another type where they actually believe in God, they believe in the last day, they believe in some of the prophets, but they reject some of the prophets. That's another type of kufr. That's not the kufr of atheism or ilhad, or the kufr of the mushrik who associates with Allah. But kufr is a very important term in the Quran. And if you're reading the book with us, Izutsu's book, the great Japanese, I'd have to call him an Occidentalist, because he was in Japan studying the Muslims as opposed to an Orientalist. But he, extraordinary linguist and extraordinary scholar. And he's written several books about Islam because he was fascinated. In fact, he's the only person in Iran, in their great academy of philosophy, he's the only I don't know if he was a non-Muslim, but he's considered a non-Muslim. I find it hard to believe somebody could have that depth of knowledge and see how extraordinary the Quran was and not be a believer. But in any case, he's the only person that they have a picture of him on their wall, of all the great philosopher scholars in the Iranian tradition. He's the only one, and he taught in Iran. But he had an incredible knowledge of languages. He knew over 30 languages, like Dr. Cleary, a very similar genius for language, among many other things. But he analyzed the word kufr in the Quran, and he sees all of these different, he gives you all of these different perspectives on what kufr is. So, and this is why in this translation of the Quran, which is, inshallah, we've been working on it this Ramadan with some of us to try to republish it because it's been out of print for a long time. But this translation of the Quran, one of the things that Dr. Cleary did in the translation is he doesn't always translate kafir with the same word. And in that way, he's showing that the multifaceted nature of kufr in the Quran, that it can't be fixed with one translation. There's not one word that can really get to. Disbeliever is one aspect of it. But the word is, and it might, I don't know, sometimes you have these linguistic coincidences, but cover in English is related in meaning. So cover, to cover over, is exactly what it means. And that's why أعجب الكفار نباته. The kuffar in the Quran are the farmers in one verse. That when they saw the nabat, they were, it pleased them to see the nabat. So the kafir is a farmer because yakfuru, he covers the seed with soil. So the kafir is the one who covers over the truth. He hides the truth. He conceals the truth. Or he covers over his blessings. So one of the meanings of it is ingrate. That there's an ingratitude in these people, the kuffar. They're ungrateful. And Allah warns us in many, many places in the Quran about this idea of forgetting the blessings of Allah, to remember the blessings of Allah. Part of dhikr is remembering the blessings of Allah. In ta'uddu ni'matallahi la tuhsaha. If you attempt to enumerate the blessings of Allah, you will never enumerate them. And one of the dangers of dunya is when you reflect too much on the world, on the negative qualities of the world, you can fall into a depression, you can fall into a state of ingratitude when you don't focus on the positive. And that's why Iblis wants you to focus on the negative. Iblis wants to fill your life with all these troubles, make you feel despair. That's the whole game of Iblis. He wants you, he swore an oath to Allah that he would lead the majority of humanity astray. And he said that you will find that most of them are not grateful. They're not shakirin. So it's a very dangerous thing to fall into ingratitude. So he says, Qaf, by the glorious recital, but they think it's strange that a warner has come to them from their midst, and those who scoff say. So here he's translating kafaru as scoff. This is an astonishing thing. When we have died in our dust, like if we, إِذَا مِتْنَا وَكُنَّا تُرَابًا ذَلِكَ رَجْعٌ بَعِيدٌ. If we die and then we're turab, we're dust, ذَلِكَ رَجْعٌ بَعِيدٌ. That is a very remote possibility, right? قَدْ عَلِمْنَا مَا تَنْقُصُ الْأَرْضُ مِنْهُمْ وَعِنْدَنَا كِتَابٌ حَفِيظٌ. We know what the earth has diminished from them, has taken from them, because as when we're buried in the earth, except for the incorruptibles, and they're real, the incorruptibles are real. There are people who do not, they don't perish from the earth. And many, many people have seen incorruptibles. There was a study in Discovery some time ago where they let people into the Vatican where they keep the incorruptible bodies. And these are pre-Islamic saints that were preserved in their bodies. And some of them they mummified. A lot of the popes actually, to kind of ensure that they didn't corrupt, they had them embalmed. But there are people that don't. The earth does not take them. And I heard from Sheikh Mahmoud Sawaf, the Iraqi scholar, and these are people I believe. He was a man of great integrity, but I heard him. He was in a group of people that reburied Sayyidina Hamza when they had floods and the grave actually got uncovered, and so they reburied him, and he said he saw him fully intact, his body. And there are many examples of that. So it's not, and this is in other traditions as well. It's not just the Muslims that have incorruptibles. There are other traditions of this. One of the big impacts when I was a 12-year-old, I went to an Orthodox summer camp in Greece, and they took us to the island of Zakynthos, and there was a Orthodox saint in their tradition whose body was completely intact, open to air. And we were told that they still cut the nails and cut the hair of this saint. But there are many, many examples of that in history and still today.